So we say we embrace parent and student choice by offering a wide variety of pathways of learning. Our alt-ed schools, several of you were at the graduation last week for Daniel C. Oaks. We have incredible alt-ed opportunities for our kids, including Eagle Academy and Plum Creek Academy. We have comprehensive neighborhood schools. One of the things I really want to clarify today, and this was one of the first things that we did when we went through the Choice Task Force, kind of a misconception came out. And that misconception was every school had to have some really tight defined specialty. That wasn't the point at all. What we said was all schools need to have clearly defined missions and visions so parents could know what kind of programming to expect. How can parents make good decisions about where they're going to send their kids if they don't know what the school's about? We don't define our schools anymore by 4th Street and Front Street. Rather, it's by what we provide and offer for the kids. Over 80 schools. Now, Judy kind of put me through the ringer on this, but if you look at in terms of some of the programs that we have here, it's amazing in terms of the options that we have to offer our parents. But I also want to tell you that we have, if you notice it says comprehensive neighborhood schools. We have comprehensive neighborhood schools that are just great schools, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later, but understand that's our point, is that we want to be able to inform our parents about what's going on. Obviously, we've been very involved with quality charter schools for a long time. Since we had the first charter school in 1992 with Academy Charter, you can see we've got quite a repertoire of schools up there, including core knowledge, STEM, Montessori, and kind of a classical within Skyview, a classical academy type of an idea. I think we kind of stole the logo in that one, but we have representatives from those people on our panel today. Online. We have Hope Online, which is a multi-district, and it's really, online is kind of a misnomer because the kids go to school 8 to 4 or whatever their normal school days are, but they do online curriculum and work in neighborhood community centers all through the state of Colorado. We're real proud of that program. We also have with us here tonight Sonny Vancilis, who's got the Colorado Cyber School. I was really fortunate. I got to work with Sonny in the very beginning in terms of helping set this program up. Another great online opportunity, a K-12 multi-district, meaning anybody in the state can come to it, cyber school in Douglas County. Home education, we've developed a heck of a program here. I just got to tell you, we've got a lot of things going on. Over 300 kids now, 300 homeschoolers all through the district that are basically taking advantage of this program. We also have 2 really good charter school programs that deal with home education also. So it's not unique to the district, but I guess it's unique to the parents of Douglas County in that they've got a lot of situations, a lot of opportunities that they can use for success here. And the final piece, and we're still, the Choice Scholarship Program we talked about in March 2011, the scholarship pilot program was set up for 500 kids, but it's enjoined right now. Is that the right word? Lawyer dude? Okay. So nothing has really happened with that at this point in time, but that was the 5th piece of the puzzle that we had. And I hope that you don't get a little motion sick on the Prezi here, but Judy gets a little crazy sometimes. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to turn this over to Tom for a little bit to talk about, the second piece of the puzzle. I said before, the first piece of the puzzle is we want to have this comprehensive inventory of choices that kids can make. The second piece is giving parents the information to make that choice. And finally, us giving support to schools wanting to make that transition in there. So,
thanks, Pat. You want to run the clicker?
Sure.
Thank you. Thanks, Pat. Good evening, members. So in the Choice Programming Office where I work for Pat, one of the major emphases that we've got coming up is giving parents the kind of information that they need to make good choices based on what's best for their children, what's best for their families. So as a result of that, as you'll see from the new website, there are lots of ways that parents can explore not only their children's learning styles, but also how those learning styles can then be emphasized. Oh, thank you. How those learning styles can then be emphasized. So we know that parents know their children best. And so by helping to identify some of the ways that children learn, we'll be working with Jason Germain and his folks to drill down farther into helping parents understand what their children's learning styles are and helping to understand where they may have a good fit. Every school in the district is going to educate every child in an excellent way, but there are some schools that have different emphases. Some children learn better in different ways, and so by equipping parents with that kind of information, we help to match them up with the place where they're going to be the most successful. The other thing I'm really excited about is this fall we'll be relaunching Parent University. The idea behind Parent University, of course, is to empower and equip parents to be partners and important partners with the district in learning more about how their children learn and partnering with the district. So the idea is to provide a unique opportunity for parents to become more involved in their students' education with a view to increasing academic and personal success for their kids. So again, the Prezi's getting a little wild here, so hold on to your seats. We'll be partnering with departments within the district as well as other academic institutions, community organizations, other agencies, for example, the sheriff's office, local fire departments, folks like that. The idea is to provide free seminars for parents and caregivers to give them the knowledge and resources so they can positively affect their kids' academic and lifestyle choices. So, for example, some of the classes that we'll be providing things like academic support, character development, internet safety, financial literacy. The idea is to give parents those tools so they can help their kids be successful in school and in life. And finally, we're going to be starting this in fall. We've already got several folks lined up to teach classes, for example, on 7 Habits of Effective Students, 7 Habits of Effective Families. We're also looking forward to putting together a Choice Open House, which is an actual face-to-face opportunity for parents just before the open enrollment period opens in November 15th to come and visit with schools face-to-face and say, tell me about your program. What's your mission and vision? What are you all about? And we're just really excited about having sort of here's this little big top, but sort of a school fair whereby parents can come and meet people face-to-face and learn about the opportunities for their kids at that school. Matt?
The last piece of the puzzle is we're talking about providing our schools the resources and training to be able to do these things right. One of the things that we've figured out in terms of this innovation process is that, part one, when we're coming in, is when you're doing this plan, there's a lot of research in the background. You have to talk to your teachers. You have to talk to your parents. You have to really look and research these programs. So step one, we're basically providing support for people. An example of this is our Artful Learning School. I had taken the principal out to Iowa for a little field trip to look at Artful Learning School and really see what it was all about. But after step one, when we're going to do this, and here's the key. I want to be really clear about this. This isn't a huge bureaucratic process. What we've basically done is put some documents together that are suggestions as here's a nice way to kind of navigate through this problem. And it's, these are the things you should look for, but it's really incumbent. And Brian Rada, who's up here, he's doing this right now. He's one of the people that we had come through. He's doing this innovation within his school right now. So we just wanted to provide people some support with that. Seeking district approval. A lot of times these programs require funding for training. The Artful Learning, I think it was $75,000 over 3 years to implement this entire program, to be able to do that kind of work. So we have to look at district approval, look at what kind of waivers we might need to make these things work, because people can really think outside the box with this. This isn't a clearly defined, cookie cutter type of program that we're putting forward with that. And finally, just taking it before and then setting up some sort of basically an ongoing accreditation process after it's implemented. So, like I said, 3 pieces. Having a nice inventory, giving parents great information to make their decisions, and finally, support to the schools in terms of doing that. And I'll be talking with you next month because Dr. Fagan has felt that I really need a lot of face time with the board right now for some reason about the professional development aspect of this, and we'll figure it out. But I thought, once again, Judy picked a beautiful image. We're committed to doing what's best for our students in our classroom. Now, I thought the best way to talk about choice was to bring these people here in front of you and give you the opportunity to talk with them and have a little conversation about what's going on with their schools. What I'm going to do is I'll go through and I'll introduce the principals here in a moment. I think we've got them all set up here. I've asked them when possible, and we're out of school now, so it's a little difficult, to bring a kid with them, because guess what? The reason we have these programs is because of these kids that are part of it. It looks like Dr. Calhoun looks a little different tonight, but he's going to do a fine job in terms of representing Castleview High School. So we have Shannon Martin with Mammoth Heights, that is a traditional, comprehensive elementary school in Castle Rock. Sonny Vancilis is Colorado Cyber School, does online work. Dr. Calhoun there, I think we're going to talk a little about their Mosaic program and look at Castleview. Brian Rada is in the process of converting to a expeditionary learning type school. And finally, Dr. Penny Euchre is doing work. She's a STEM school, but a charter school. I wanted to make very clear, this is what we've got in Douglas County. We've got a broad spectrum of choices for parents, both charter and neighborhood schools, that provide, we think, the best opportunity for students. So tell you what, Shawnee, you want to start over there?
So
And
we're at Mammoth Heights. We're actually in Parker.
We're over in Parker. You guys, there we go. And I have with me today Harrison Castle, who is a 6th grade student at Mammoth Heights, and he started there in 1st grade. And his mom, Hope, is also with us here. And so just a little bit about our school. Do you want us to all introduce first and then talk a little bit, Pat? Just hear it all? Okay. And then Harrison brought a piece with him today that he'd actually like to share. So a little bit, we are considered a traditional neighborhood school in Parker. Our mission is all around cherishing and nurturing each and every child that walks through that door. And our motto is dream, strive, and become. And it's really about dreaming big, striving for the extraordinary, because anything is possible, and become whatever you want, because your potential is endless. We don't tell kids what their potential is. They help drive their potential. So a few ways that we are doing that moving forward these last few years is a big increase also in the use of technology. And we are going to mobile devices and using different mobile devices at each grade level to really ensure students have the opportunity to, it's ever changing. I mean, every year or even every 6 months, there's a new device and new apps out. So we are teaching our kids how to use that in a very student-friendly way. And also building community and collaboration within that. You're going to find when you walk into our building, there are people everywhere. But it is because we use every little space possible within our building for learning. So you're going to find kids huddled in a corner on a set of steps, possibly videotaping. I can't tell you how many times I've walked through an iMovie in production accidentally because they're videoing in the hallway. Yeah, there's some photo bombs, and they've even asked me to redo it at times because it then fits into their film. So really, it is all about, it's all about the students. It's about community. It's about best practices to support their dreams. And through that right now is really through technology is a big component of it in those collaborative spaces for students. So what Harrison brought today that I asked him to read is he and about 5 other 6th grade students wrote a passage about what it means to be at Mammoth Heights. And we're actually sharing this tomorrow at their 6th grade continuation. So we thought it would be appropriate to kind of give you a student lens of how they feel about our school.
So my fellow 6th graders and I, we named this Memories. Memories are cherished and forever stapled to my heart. Soon the children will be coming back. I can't wait to see them after break with new haircuts and new friends and new stories. I hear the sound of the bell as children rush in, ready to learn. Laughter and shouts fill the air. I'm so glad to have the students back, new and old. Kids rushing to say hi to their friends, friends rushing to comfort the ones who are nervous to begin, and welcoming all of the faces young and old. But as I look around the busy classroom, I see something that does not fit with the joyous sounds in the air. A little boy walking around and looking at the ground. He sees no familiar faces because he is new. As tears begin to form in his eyes, a young student walks over and reaches out their hand to him, even though no one is watching. He smiles and feels welcome and safe. As the year goes by, more and more pictures and posters are stapled to my heart. I watch as the once new and scared student learns and grows and becomes a mammoth. Creativity finds itself growing all around and inside me. Kids get to engage in new products, new ideas, and new books. I see innovation as kids work on iPads, Chromebooks, and MacBooks. They work in cool new chairs, rolling around as they collaborate with each other. I watch the students' faces light up as they jump into their seats. The library, the computer lab, and the classrooms become lined with technology. Students create their unique social media presence. I watch as the students critically think and apply their new learning. Academics, growth, and kindness are the I watch as the students critically think and apply their new learning. Academics, growth, and kindness are the first things on everybody's mind. Teachers guide their students to take risks and to not be afraid to fail. These teachers truly care about each and every child that walks through me. Their energy and passion brings us all to life. They keep our hearts beating. I always know what's going on every day, everywhere, and I always will, because I am a simple wall that surrounds this amazing place. It's always been that way, but here at Mammoth Heights, I am more than just a wall. I'm part of a very special place, a place that remains so constant yet is always growing. I am proud to be a piece of what makes this place so unique, so fun, so fast, and always moving forward. I am a Mammoth Wall.
Nice job, Harrison. So I'm going to pass it on.
Okay. That was great. So I'm listening to that, and I'm thinking about the graduation ceremony that we just had, because I have with me today Deanna Stevens, who is a recent 2014 graduate from EDCSD. So we're pleased to have her here, and I'll have her share a little bit of her story. But what we have always been about truly is offering a different vehicle where students really can experience the same level of rigor, the same challenges, the same degree of educational excellence that our students experience throughout this county and all of the brick and mortar schools. It's just a different vehicle. Our goal is to remove obstacles for students and to make that learning as authentic and sustainable as we possibly can while personalizing that learning. So we're moving into a blended learning model, which we are basing on learner profiles so that we can truly wrap the services around each student that will most benefit them in order for them to achieve their greatest growth and potential. So I'm excited to have Deanna here, and I'll let her share a little bit of her story.
All right. Before I begin, I would like to inform you that this speech was created in the context of being spoken at a graduation ceremony and might not apply to this situation, but still contains valid information. Okay. Teachers, students, administrators, and parents, welcome. We are graduating. Not only are we graduating, we are people looking into the future with questioning yet confident minds. Each of us is unique, with different dreams, different talents, and different futures. We stand at the threshold of a new beginning. I'm here today to talk about how I obtained this new beginning and the lessons that I've discovered through securing this brand new phase of my life. I've attended online high school for roughly 2 years and have previously attended Legend High School for 2 years. When I was given the option to speak at my graduation, my counselor instructed me to describe the events that influenced my final decision to leave Legend High School. In order to safeguard the teachers and staff at Legend, I must tell you that everyone experiences high school differently, and the trials and tribulations that I faced should not influence your conclusive opinion about this particular school. I never dreamt that it would get so bad that I was to have to leave Legend. I never wanted it. But before I knew anything about online education, I thought that there was no way out. I felt trapped within the confines of a place that yearned to be my undoing. Like many teenagers in high school, I was a has-been, or in other words, a loser. This was because of my unwillingness to be outgoing, and also because my twin brother Shane was very well known. I'm not saying this just for the purpose of inducing your pity. I am telling you this because it was the truth. A brutal truth that I faced every time I walked through those doors and into a classroom full of teenagers that had already decided who I was to them. Sorry, guys. I would sit down in the nearest desk and pray that the teacher would not give a group project that day, because a group project meant that 2 or more people were to pair up, and I often had no other willing person to pair up with. When I think about the most humiliating experience at that school, a particular instance involving a group project comes straight to my mind. In my 7th period English class, there were many popular and headstrong kids who often threw caution to the wind when it came to expressing their opinions. Usually it made class very interesting, but on that particular day, I wish they had withheld their judgment. About midway through the class, the teacher announced that there was to be a small group project, and in order to pick your partner, you had to get up and sit next to the individual of your choice. So everybody stood up and scrambled to find the friend that they were looking for, and to my dismay, I watched as person after person sat down. So there I was, standing alone in the middle of the room. I could feel the weight of all their gaze all around me, and I could practically hear the judgment as it burst into the surface of my fellow classmates' minds. The teacher had her attention on her computer and asked, "Now does everyone have a partner?" Somebody in the room laughed quietly and said, "Shane's sister doesn't." I could feel my face burning from embarrassment and shame. And I fought to keep some dignity as I stood there in front of the whole classroom alone. The teacher looked at me with pity, and I feared the worst. "I'll be your partner, Deanna." Even though compassion fringed her heart and she only meant well, it just made the situation worse. I heard a lot of kids laugh and watched as some smiled and smirked. I felt sick and wanted nothing more than to melt into the ground beneath me. After that day, I knew that there had to be a big change in my life. Walking lonely hallways, eating lunch in my car to avoid sitting alone at the lunch tables, baking sick just to get out of going to school, and plummeting grades due to my frequent absences in class. During that time, my educational career teetered on the edge of total collapse. But I wasn't about to sit back and watch as my future slipped away through clenched fists. I had to find an alternative. I had to find a way to get an education without having to endure the crushing weight of public high school. And that is when I discovered DCSD online cyber school. It was a big change, but it has been the best change in my life so far. I was very apprehensive at first because my entire educational career, I was used to sitting in a classroom. With online school, I was able to learn at an extraordinary pace, all within the serenity of my home. The Colorado Cyber School taught me how to experience and appreciate learning again. I never worried about how I looked, what I saw, or if I could find a partner to pair up with. I just focused on my work and really started to gather information at much higher volumes than I ever did in public school. It was a breath of fresh air, a chance for me to take the time and discover how I like to learn and how I needed to pace myself. It taught me skills that I will use in college that a public education could never teach me. Things like timing management, organization, and communication. I received praise and feedback from teachers and counselors that I had never experienced before, and that gave me much confidence in myself. I think online school saved my educational career, and in a way, saved my life. Looking back on my time in Legend and the experiences that I faced, I've realized something. I've realized that I am not a has-been. I am a will-be. And so is everybody else who has ever felt the same way that I have. I can't change the past, nor do I want to. In order to move on, I forgave the people who decided to hurt and judge me, and have learned so much because of that. So to each student sitting behind me and to every person in this room, I say to you that behind us lies the path of learning and ahead the road to success.
So what we know is not all students learn in the same way. Not all students thrive in the same environment. And whether it's a school here or ABC High School or XYZ High School, all students need an opportunity to find the right fit. And that's what this is all about. So I am very proud to be a part of it. Thanks. Are you good, Dr. Calhoun?
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Rada, principal at Fox Creek Elementary School. And earlier this school year, I had the privilege of sitting on a panel with Jim Calhoun as he began to describe to a group of future leaders the Mosaic Program at Castlewood. And it appears that he wasn't able to be here tonight, so I get the opportunity to introduce my brand new friend, McKinley Green. And Green, thank you. And he's going to describe a little bit about the Mosaic Program.
So the Mosaic program is it's an entirely project-based learning style. So there's no sitting in rows at desks. There's no listening to the teacher give a lecture. It's like the real world. In the real world, you don't have to sit there and listen to your, in our case, teachers or your boss give a lecture. You do it, and that's what this is trying to do. In order to get the same curriculum as everyone else, you show that you have passed. That made no sense. You conduct that curriculum like you would in a classroom through projects like you would in the real world. It prepares you for going into the workforce, for going to college, much more than having in a classroom with a textbook. In addition, the projects that we do aren't random projects that the teachers make up. One project that I know one of my teachers was saying was that we will look at something in Castleview High School, an aspect of the culture, and we'll try and change or improve upon that. It could be everything from the lunch line to the library, it doesn't matter. And that's just within our high school. And as the Mosaic program grows, we'll start looking towards the community. And so it'll be, the point of it isn't to sit in a classroom, it's to, like the real world, it's to learn and grow in a real fashion, I guess.
Well, thanks, McKinley. I'm going to briefly tell you, let's please. I'd like to just give you a brief description of what Fox Creek is doing right now. This upcoming school year, we will celebrate our 20th year as a neighborhood school, and we have always had a strong desire to be a comprehensive neighborhood school. This last year, we moved into the adoption of the Expeditionary Learning academic model. This came with a lot of really strong enthusiasm from my staff as we moved into this kind of learning, which we felt had the potential to meet the needs of all kids within our neighborhood. There are three main components of expeditionary learning. The first is that keystone event that it's known for, which is learning expeditions. Learning expeditions are long-term interdisciplinary projects or a series of projects that students do that involve reading, mathematics, writing, social studies, and science all together. They culminate in some type of a product or impact for another group or people, so that the students' learning and the production of their learning has meaningful impact to others. Another component of expeditionary learning is that of culture and climate. It's a concept that's called crew, which comes from one of the founders with the quote, "We are crew, not passengers," meaning that we need to rely on one another and we need to be counted on to help us get to the right destination. Crew is something that happens throughout the day, but it's also a mindset within the school. And the belief that with strong character, strong performance character, kids will be able to operate at the high levels of thinking and creativity that is required for a learning expedition. The final piece of expeditionary learning is that around high student engagement and student ownership of learning, that they have a significant say in determining what their next steps are, their goals, and the path of which they get to get there with, guided by, of course, our faculty and Colorado academic standards. Well, I brought with me today one of my very favorite students, She didn't have much of an opportunity to say no because her dad's the principal. And so I would like to introduce Kaylee Rada, who just finished up her 6th grade year at Fox Creek. What's interesting about Kaylee's experience is that she open enrolled to Fox Creek when she became a 4th grader. So she's been through the beginning of this transition and has a little bit of insight for us. Now, I didn't ask her to prepare anything, so as these wonderful students are beginning to say all of these incredible things, she leans over and says, "Dad, do I have to say something like really smart?" I said, "Of course." This first year in EL, our primary focus has been on establishing crew and creating a data dialogue within our faculty so that we could really understand how to best move forward with the kinds of student achievement data that would make a difference. But Deanna, what you said was so eloquent and so beautiful, and I appreciate your honesty with that. She brought back for me the entire purpose of why we do crew at Fox Creek and the need for kids, well, for all of us, to truly feel like we belong and that we matter. So, Kaylee, if you wouldn't mind talking about your experience with crew, I would say both as a learner yourself and also just as a person.
So at our school, we have kind of adopted 7 habits of character, and a lot of times, each crew session connects to one of those habits of character. And so the habits of character are courage, respect, contribution, integrity, perseverance, collaboration, and compassion. And we do crews that each have readings, initiatives, greetings at the beginning, and then a closing or reflection that will happen at the end of the day. And each initiative can connect to your personal life and also, how to teach you different life lessons. But then you can also connect it to different things you are learning in school that day. So I have learned so much from just kind of learning how to, continue on my education, but also just connect to my fellow crew members and my whole grade. I feel like at my school right now, our whole school just has more respect for each other, just because we know so much more about each other from just simply talking in crews or, just communicating better than we ever were. When I was at my school before, which was Coyote Creek Elementary, I really kind of felt like I belonged, but I didn't belong. There were certain places I could fit into and certain places I couldn't. And I feel like it's kind of like that in almost every school. At Fox Creek before, there were, the different groups. And I felt like I could belong in some, I couldn't belong in others, and I didn't really have a place. But I feel like after we developed crew, we've kind of become a whole force. We are more together now than we ever were. And I know those kids who were in my class better than I ever probably would have without crew. And I have learned so much just from them. And just from listening to them, and also just being open for them to teach me, because they oftentimes know more about certain things than I do, and then I can teach them back in return. Also, each crew session, the teacher participates as well, and they're sometimes, a specialty in 6th grade is the teachers will lead some of them, but then they'll let the students lead the crews. So the students will plan their own crews and plan each initiative and each reading, and also the greeting reflection. And then it really tests your class respect for each other and just being able to listen to someone who doesn't have as much authority as the teacher. And I've also learned many things just from what the teachers and staff have learned, because they do each initiative before we do them. So they do each initiative, and then they introduce them to our classes. So I've found that most teachers have the same results as us students do on certain initiatives. So one of my favorites was each student had a piece of paper, and we went outside and we set them on the ground, and there was one extra paper, and we had to organize ourselves by birthday, and we couldn't talk. And we never completed that crew initiative the whole year. But I found out that the same frustrating feelings that we were feeling, the teachers also felt, and they never completed it either. But it was important for me to know that, sure, they can know more than us, but they're not as different from us than we think they are. And we can connect with them just as much as we connect with our peers. And I have gained courage from just being in front of my peers and, knowing that what I think they judge me for might even surprise them. We had a couple disciplinary issues in the beginning of the year with cyberbullying and different judgmental problems. And so my whole grade circled up in our different classrooms, and we all said what we thought other people judged us for. And even my teacher, Mr. Dodd, told us this, that other classes were saying, oh, they judge me because I have glasses, or they judge me because I'm not picked first on a team and I'm not that great at sports. But my class, we had the courage to take it to a whole new level. We were talking about problems at home, different things that were kind of balanced into our lives that we thought other people didn't understand, or they judged us for because we were different. And you would be surprised about the different reactions that we gave them, because some of us didn't even know those things were going on. Some of us didn't know, or would never have thought that we would judge them for that. And it was so interesting just to see how different our mindsets are and how much harder we are on ourselves than from the other students. And I've just gained courage and kind of trusted myself more, because I know that a lot of times what I tell myself in my head is completely different from what other people are saying. And they're saying good things, and they might be saying some not so good things, but I need to rely on the good things that they're saying and just trust that I'm doing what I'm going to be doing. And I just need to trust myself so that they don't have as big of an impact on me. And I feel like knowing that and relating that to my learning and just working together and collaborating helped my personal life so much more, just because I understand myself more. I know how I want to learn, and I can understand how others learn so that I can help them with whatever they may need. And I think that's one of the things that crew is mostly about, is just being there for other people, whether they're learning or whether they're struggling with things at home or, things in their personal life. It's just kind of being there and being ready for anything.
Hi, I'm representing STEM School, and we are a unique charter school that I always feel you have to see it to understand it. STEM students are unique learners. We put in your packet a sheet that has kind of our demographics and some of our information. I brought one of our students, and I always feel because it's such a unique program, you have to hear it from the perspective of our students. And her father, because another powerful voice in the room is the voice of parents, and I think of our students as consumers of their education. This is Lauren Martin, and she is in 8th grade, soon to be in 9th grade.
Hi, so I go to STEM school, and for those of you that don't know, it stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. It's a really different school from all the other schools that I've been to. When you walk in, you can just tell that there's a different vibe, and all the students that are there want to be there and want to learn. My favorite part of the STEM program is the engineering portion of it. I think it's really interesting, and you learn things that I don't think you could learn at any other school. I'm in this club after school called TSA, and it stands for Technology Student Association. It's a engineering club where every February students take their projects that they work on all year, and they take them and compete in the state competition. And so this year we took our competitions to state, and we came out as the chapter of the year, and it just shows how much dedication every student has at STEM. The science portion is also really great. You do really interesting science experiments that you don't really think about as being like, oh, well, that's different, and you wouldn't really think about applying that to the real world. But then once the teachers show you, it's different gives you a different perspective. The math portion of it is also really great. And so is the technology. All the teachers there are really committed, and you can tell that they love what they do. They're really hands-on with the students. So.
Thank you, Lauren. So we serve grades 6 through 12. Next year we will have just over 1,000 students. About half of our students come from out of district. And students who seek us out have unique ways of learning. This is a very special school in the sense that the students who gravitate towards STEM really need that cohort of learners. They're passionate about what they enjoy. We let them work at their level. For example, if they come in ready for, at 6th grade, ready for geometry, we test them in, and that's okay. They could be in calculus by 8th grade and remedial English. And one thing, especially when I heard Deanna's story, what I find as an administrator amazing, we have absolutely no girl drama. Everyone there supports each other, and it's a unique learning environment that once students seek it out, many of our students come from homeschooling because they felt marginalized in schools, and it's just a joyful place, and I hope that you all can visit. Mr. Larson's visited, Dr. Fagan, and it's hard to really explain it until you see it. And if it's okay, I would like our parent to speak about how they found us. This is Wayne Martin.
And I really want, and Dr. Callahan's here. And guys, when we set this up earlier, one size doesn't fit all. I mean, that's what becomes evident to me, because if you hear the love expressed for each of their schools, that it's not unique to their, I mean, it's unique to their schools, but at the same time, by providing these different options for people to do to meet the needs of the kids, we can do that. So I do have Dr. Calhoun, and when we go quick on that, then we'll talk a little bit about, if you guys have some questions for either the kids or the principal of these schools, we'll move on to that, but here you go.
Apologize for being tardy. I do not have a tardy pass, so I'm sorry. But I want to thank McKinley for representing our school and the program next year, which we are calling Mosaic. It is a personalized learning environment, integrated instruction, which tries to take all subject levels and put them in. The students will be working on projects. They'll be working on problems associated with things that they encounter in their daily lives or in the community or maybe even the global community. Teachers are going to be teaching in an environment. The structure for that environment will be, the structure for the classroom for McKinley will be unlike anything that you've seen before. We won't have periods, actual periods. It'll be a non-graded format. Transcripts will look different. It is a transformational environment that's based on the concept that we need to interact with students' passion and their interests. And once we interact with that, they're going to learn at a deeper and more meaningful level. So obviously, I think, Pat, time, you said, was an issue here. I could go into it. I would like and love to answer more direct questions about it or talk offline if you do have questions or concerns.
Directors, Benevento, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you. I just want to thank all of you, teachers, students, and parents for coming. You reaffirmed, I think, something that we all know, that everybody learns different, that an environment that's right for one person may not be right for another. And it has nothing to do with the quality of institution that you left. It meant that you had to find something that worked for you. And the courage you all showed in going and finding that, I think, is laudable and needs to be commended by the board. And listening to you has made us a better board. So I just want to thank you, and I also want to thank you all for showing up and discussing your different stories. I mean, I know it's difficult to show up in a strange room in front of a strange group of people and talk about things that are deeply personal to you. But trust me, it has made us better. So it was courage well spent. Thank you.
Director Silverthorne.
I certainly want to thank you all for coming. I've had the opportunity to visit a couple of your schools. And Mammoth Heights is right next to my house, so it's been fantastic since it opened a few years ago. So thank you all for being here. If possible, I would actually like to yield the rest of my time to the parent who was about to speak. Would that be permissible?
That would be fine. Let's hear from the parent from the student from STEM. Yeah, sure.
Good evening. My name is Wayne Martin. I'm the father of Lauren Martin, who is one of the STEM students. I think the greatest thing about a parent is being able to have the opportunity to see your child grow, to see them experience new opportunities, whether it's academically, athletically, socially. And that's one of the things I love about Douglas County, and specifically about STEM, is that it gives us the opportunity to see Lauren just truly blossom. She mentioned she was involved in TSA this past couple of years. TSA is an after-school program, and it's basically engineering based. What makes her so excited to get up in the morning is this TSA club. It's crazy. I've seen kids involved in athletics and social events and so forth. But my daughter seems to be involved heavily in TSA. She was the president of the chapter this year. They went to state. And it was interesting, at the beginning of the year, she said, "Dad, I want to do one thing with my TSA chapter, is to win the state competition for the middle schools." And she was able to achieve that this year simply by the zeal that she brought to the school, the zeal that she brought to the club. And the zealousness that she had kind of radiated throughout the school, and the kids became excited. And that's what excites me as a parent, is just seeing the kids excel within the discipline that they like, whatever that happened to be, academically, socially, or athletically. And I'm proud of Lauren. I'm proud of what we're doing at STEM. And thank you for giving us, as parents, the opportunity to make choices for our kids. Thank you.
Other directors? I've got a few I want to ask really each one of you, and especially the students, but the principals. So let's just start on this end. At Mammoth Heights, and I think you represented a very important choice that a lot of people think we're overlooking, that to be a comprehensive neighborhood school is only if you haven't chosen something else, and that we want to do that. I think it's up to the school to determine what's their best identity and what's their best structure and curriculum to provide. How did you come to that conclusion of what your comprehensive community was going to be, Shannon? What was I'll get to you in a minute too, Harrison, but from your perspective, how did you determine with your community that what you chose, you really did choose, that is the right answer for Mammoth Heights?
So really when the school, so we're in year 7, and really I've been there 2 years. And when the school was built and really that foundation, when the mission was developed, it's all about students first. And I remember when I came in to the building the first time, even to take a tour before I interviewed for the position, it's a community. And that's the very first thing I felt when I walked in, from the staff to the students to the parents, is you feel connected 100% of the way. And so with that, I would say everyone has a voice. And we take the lead from everybody. It's not just one person saying, hey, we should relook at our math program for best meeting our kids' needs, because this isn't working. Our parents have input on it. Our teachers have input, and so does our students. And so I think that that's the way it's comprehensive, is that we don't just pick one thing based on one need. We listen to input from all. Our parents have a big voice with that. And then also the passion. I think the passion is what comes through. What I've really noticed over these last couple of years and why we've developed so much is because we literally, in the 13 years that I've been in education, this is the hardest working staff I've ever worked with in my life. And they are so driven that they will take any opportunity to learn. They are truly lifelong learners. So example is this: last summer we had 2 staff members go to the tech conference up in Copper. This year I'm going with, and I'm taking 9 teachers with me. That's the type of staff that we have, that if we want to get better at embedding technology within our classrooms and having mobile devices because we don't want it to be stationary in a certain spot, then let's go utilize that and find out, because that's what our kids need right now. So I really think it's joint decision making across the board, and really looking at what do our students need in this current day and current time, and what's the best way to do that. And whatever we need to do, we're going to find those resources and put them to use. So that's, but to me, it's always changing. It's not today, this is the model that we're going to be using. We're going to continue to develop it, but the technology is just one example. So does that address that?
Yes, and one of your stellar examples is Harrison here. So I just wanted to compliment what you shared, your writing that you shared. I really enjoyed the personification. You grabbed me right away when, personifying the wall and feeling memories were stapled to your heart. And I couldn't let go of that feeling and that image the whole time, and it really put me in the perspective of listening to the rest of what you had to say. So I just wanted to share my compliments on a very fine device in your writing. It was captivating.
Thank you.
Sonny, at the graduation just last week, I had the chance to see a whole spectrum of kids that I think a lot of times people see EDCSD Cyber School as where, someone, they got in trouble, or they got, they were homeschooled and this is the only way they'll engage in the rest. And there may be elements of that in some circumstances, but I also now, Deanna, your story is very poignant. I commend the courage that, from what you described and your refusal to be outgoing, but I guess that just stressed even more the courage with which you came tonight to share your story. And I thought what was really compelling to me and a mature outlook you had was that you even prefaced it with saying, this is my unique story. And even though I had issues, using your words, at Legend, not every kid at Legend does. And while we recognize that providing some of the most stellar schools we can in our community and throughout the state and beyond, that sometimes not every one of those schools is the right fit for every individual kid. And to be able to have other options. But what I'm wondering, you said you found it, but what was your process of discovery to figure, how did you get linked to EDCSD Cyber School? And then what was the moment where you knew this was going to be the answer for you?
I knew, can you guys hear?
Yeah.
All right. I knew that EDCSD was like the right fit for me. I found out, it was sort of through process of elimination. Like, my dad didn't really have time to do homeschooling and stuff. So I was like, oh, why not online school, So we went on their website, saw these videos about these kids and their experiences, and I was like, this is great, this is perfect. I can stay at home, get my education, and a job. But yes, it was the most perfect fit for me as a student, and I'm so blessed to have this opportunity just to learn at home in my current situation.
Thanks for letting us know. And so Sonny, then, so for Deanna to find you, and clearly we have some means and some resources, but how do we make sure that we have the outreach? I guess I'll just ask, do we think there's a lot of more Deannas out there that aren't getting informed and need to know that your school might be the option that is going to work best for them? And how are we doing capacity-wise to provide it? Or are we strapped for the resources to have it for all the kids who we already identified needing it, knowing there may be even many more who we haven't identified?
So
I think it's difficult sometimes to find not only my option, but all of the options that are available in our county. I think we're beginning to do a better job of that. But this is our 7th year also, and we have evolved every single year. We have evolved because we continue to look at what the needs of the students are. And so, yes, we have a website. Yes, when the new communications department came on, huge improvement there in terms of what was available. So I think we need to do a better job of letting our community know what the choices are that are available to them and what the wonderful choices are. So the work that I heard Tom talk about, I think is going to be beneficial. Have we hit capacity? We've not hit capacity because, of course, we work with per pupil revenue. So it's funded by that revenue. So there's not a capacity issue there. I think the growth issue is around trying to move to this blended option where we have learned over time that there aren't a lot of students, truly, learners of this age or adults, that can manage a fully virtual program. So we're putting in some pieces to support that and moving to a blended model of a 1 day a week face-to-face opportunity for those students who need it is where we're moving to. So that's the challenge that I think you all have talked a little bit about in finding space for that and moving toward that kind of an option. Really, truly needed because not all students can do it, have the self-motivation, the direction, the self-management, the time management, the support at home, and the list goes on. But we have learners that you saw who dance in California or New York or who model in Japan or those types of learners who need that fully virtual option. So I wouldn't want that to go away either. So does that answer your question?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. McKinley, you touched on it and you gave some description. So how long have you been in a project-based learning environment and compared to the textbook lecture? When did that start changing? Was it a sudden shift? Was it gradual? How long have you been in your current world of learning?
Well, I've never been in a project-based learning, and I think that's the reason why I'm so excited about doing it, because most of my classes are incredibly boring to me.
Thank you for your honesty.
And one exception, though, is my humanities class, and they are essentially a mini Mosaic program, and I really like that class because it's not just sitting there taking notes, doing worksheets, and so, yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and so Jim, if you want to chime in too, I think McKinley just hit on a great point. How do we make school not boring for kids? And not just so it's all fun and games, although fun and games is a great way to engage learning at the right times. But how is that transforming to where the classroom that you and I grew up in is very different today?
Well, if we define what he has to learn, and we force him to learn it, or we trick him, or we have great educational strategies that we bring to the classroom, and he sits there, at the very best we get from him is compliance. And that's not good enough in our society. We got to be better than compliant. We talk about world-class education, and how do we get that? How do we arrive at that point is we get students to pursue what they're passionate about. And I know at 14 years of age, and McKinley, you're 14 or 15? 14. That sometimes a student can't step up and say, I'm passionate about this, or I have a huge interest. But they're interested in something. And they can pursue something, and that pursuit, whether it's 2 weeks or whether it's 7 weeks, that pursuit's going to lead to learning things that are meaningful to them. With the guidance of the teacher, they will interact with a curriculum that's important. They'll learn the standards they need to learn, but it's on their time when they need it, not on a day when we decide to work on fractions. And I'm not ready to learn fractions. I want to learn something else. But when they're ready to learn fractions, that learning is internalized. And when they walk away from school, graduations that you guys got to attend, and they go across the stage, they're prepared for that next phase in their life because they've pursued learning on their time, in their place, and they've learned it, so they're carrying something with them. We don't want either bored students or compliant type students. We want kids that are highly engaged, that are inventing things, that are discovering things like cures for diseases and cancers, or Or you saw a presentation, I think, earlier in the year in January of a couple of students that did Reese's Robot, and they're scrambling now, seniors trying to get that completed. And they've been graduated, and they're still working on it because there's that passion there that they want to complete that assignment. And so we want to create an environment where learning takes place when the students are ready for it. It doesn't have to be during first period. It can be before school, it could be after school, it could be during spring break, it could be during the summer. When we say we don't have a schedule, part of the advantage of that is if they're in a science experiment and they want to spend another 15 or 20 minutes on it and the bell rings, they got to get up and clean up and maybe ruin that experiment. Well, they won't have to do this in this environment. They'll have some flexibility to learn what we call just-in-time learning. So I think that maybe addresses your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Thank you, Jim.